Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on in to 1TS Daily right here at One True Sport. How's it going? Happy Monday. I'm Zack Heydorn from Brass Ring Media. I'm your host, and this is the show that gets you ready for the day in professional wrestling. We're here live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, to talk the news of the day in professional wrestling with you. That's what we do here on the show. And on Mondays, they're always busy because we are reviewing the weekend. We're looking ahead and just getting ourselves ready for the week. Thanks so much to everybody who's listening in on YouTube and watching live there. What's going on? And we see the chat already filling up. Amy's in there. Amy says, "Happy Monday." Happy Monday, Amy. Thanks so much for being here. Sean says, "Nice opening win, Zach, even though Levis was really bad in the second half." Yes, here it is. Bears are 1-0. It certainly didn't seem like it was going to land that way when the game started. But hey, you know what? A win's a win, and I'll take it. I'll take that any day of the week. But what's going on, Sean? Patrick is live as well. What's going on, Patrick? Thanks so much for being here, man. Appreciate having you. So hello to everybody on YouTube. Hello if you're watching on Twitter as well. And if you are listening to us after the fact as an audio podcast and you are a One True Sport member, hello and thank you for that. If you're interested in One True Sport membership, you can head over to onetruesport.com right now and check out all we have to offer to our members. There's 3 different membership tiers. All of them include access to some of the biggest stars in pro wrestling history: Kurt Angle, Arn Anderson, Medusa, Rob Van Dam, and many, many more. So we offer a ton of perks, a ton of content for our members. So check it out. It's onetruesport.com. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to the One True Sport YouTube channel, please do us a favor and drop that in. Hit subscribe, if you will. You don't want to miss it. We do all sorts of free content here, and you can make sure you have access to it all if you just hit subscribe. Not wondering, oh, what did I miss? What's coming up next, et cetera, just subscribe, and then you'll have all that right at your fingertips. If you could also like the video right now as you're watching, that would be great. That helps us out in the YouTube algorithm and really gets us where we want to be in terms of our growth and reaching new eyes. Got to play the YouTube game if if you want to grow, and that's what we need you guys to do. So if you like our stuff and you're watching this video, hit like. And that helps us out greatly. I'll talk more about Brass Ring Media later. But let's get into it. Let's get into our show today. And a lot of chatter on All Out specifically. And a polarizing show, I think, for a lot of people. I was in the building, so I kind of have the ability to give that perspective. And starting from the top, I'll just say that I think the show had some buzz, going into it, more buzz than I thought it would have. The audience inside the Now Arena was pretty pumped up, pretty jacked up from the very beginning, and I think they sustained it for the most part. I mean, they certainly had their moments of, all right, we're a little tired, or all right, like we got to take a deep breath and whatever, go to the bathroom, get a beer or something like that. So there certainly were like ups and downs in the show, but I didn't think that the crowd lacked energy. They certainly had energy from the start. And I gotta say, the last time I was in that building was for an AEW Dynamite a year ago. And a year ago on Dynamite, it didn't have that kind of energy. It just didn't. It lacked oomph. It lacked passion. It lacked really what you come to know and love about AEW crowds, which is that energy and that kind of party feel. And it didn't have that. And this did on Saturday night. And I guess I know that, AEW Dynamite's a weekly television show. I get it. This is pay-per-view. I get it. But coming out of All In, and having a pay-per-view just 2 weeks after, you gotta know, you got to think, at least I thought that, hey, maybe there'd be a bit of a lackadaisical effort on the part of the audience, and there wasn't, and there really wasn't. So, all right, let's talk the low hanging fruit first, and we'll start with like the really good. Will Ospreay versus Pac was an amazing match. I mean, really, really amazing from just an in-ring standpoint, of course, but a psychology standpoint too. I thought they told, a really good story of each guy, trying to one up the other and best the other. Pac, he's a little bit older than Ospreay. He was able to hang with them. I thought some of the unique counters were fantastic. Will Ospreay does that spot where he counters the Frankensteiner off the top rope and lands on his feet, and him doing that in reverse, countering a backwards Frankensteiner with a backflip instead of a front flip was really impressive. Some good near falls in this, and just a really good AEW style Will Ospreay match, start to finish. I mean, one of the better matches, that I've seen live. I mean, there's just no question about it. Such a good match. If you haven't seen it, that's a reason to order the pay-per-view. Like, no question. I thought it was that good of a match. Now, when I was watching it, when I was sitting there watching this match, I was like saying to myself, man, this is just an awesome match. And then I also was saying to myself, how does Tony Khan get more out of these kind of Will Ospreay performances in particular? Like, they happen so often because he's such a good wrestler. But you'd think that, like, the goal of being Ospreay's promoter, which is what he is at this time, which is what Tony Khan is, would be to make the most you can off of him, and off of these matches. And it's just like, you got to figure out how to do that with a guy like Will Ospreay. I mean, you got to figure out a way to make that guy your Hulk Hogan, for lack of a better word. And not in terms of like his wrestling style, but in terms of, this is Ospreay's company. The company's on his shoulders. He's got to be the one to carry things forward. And so if that means less performances, so be it. I think that's one thing you can do. Show him off less. Like, have him do those kind of matches not as often. The singles Ospreay match should be, a big time thing at this point, a big time needle mover. That's the card you play. So put him in 6-man tags and put him in tag team matches and put him in promo segments and whatever. But the singles match should be, at this point, something that's really, really special. And then the other thing is, and Sean has this in a chat here that I'm going to get to in a second. The other way, I think, to make sure that people know that this is the era of Ospreay is, like, put the world title on him. These great, wonderful 5-star matches that he's having, he should be for the AEW World Championship. I mean, it was apparent to me watching this match, thinking, man, this is such a great match, and it's from your top star, and it's for like a 3rd-tier singles championship. Like, not that it's bad. I mean, look, throughout the history of wrestling, there's been great matches for, lower card titles, no question. But Ospreay's your guy. Ospreay is your guy. You wouldn't have had Hulk Hogan, in 1987 wrestling for the Intercontinental title. Even if he was going to have a really good match with somebody, that's not how you would have booked him. And I just think Ospreay needs that attention. He needs that attention to detail. He needs that white glove, watching everything that he does and making sure that you're getting the absolute most out of him. And I still think they haven't gotten there with him yet. They still need to figure that out. Well, Sean says here, Ospreay is great in the ring. They should be putting the company on his shoulders, and he shouldn't have the international title. Right. Exactly my point. Like, it's got to be the era of Will Ospreay. And to do that, I think he needs the world title. And to do that, I think you need to make what he does really, really special so that people want to pay or come out to see it, or, whatever, like buy a ticket to see it or watch on Dynamite to see it. Whatever it is, you got to leverage what he does best. And what he does best is have state-of-the-art professional wrestling matches. And like with him on your roster, you just got to get more out of it than they do from a business perspective. And I think that just you can do that with just like a booking tweak here or there and a presentation tweak here or there, and then you got things on the right track. But that's a really, really great match. Pac versus Ospreay. Highly recommend. Go out of your way to see it. Now, the rest of the card was pretty inconsequential. I thought it was a good show, but good but inconsequential, I guess. MJF and Daniel Garcia had their match. I think Garcia really had that audience on his side. I thought the match worked to that end by and we've been talking about it on this show for weeks. Like, can this feud with MJF, thanks, Sean, can this feud with MJF kind of not necessarily elevate Danny Garcia, but shed the dancing Danny Garcia that everybody's known for the last 2 years and make him into a more serious competitor? That match with MJF accomplished that goal. I don't know that he's elevated. I don't think that he is. I don't think he's, a bigger star now than he was going in, because the match wasn't really about him. But the residual effect of that match being as successful as it was I think you should look at Danny Garcia a little bit differently. The submission spots at the end really, really hooked the crowd. It was kind of a slow match up until that point, at least in the building. It felt like they were just trade spots. But when they got the submissions in, that's when people really started to come alive. And I think a lot of that is because of how they feel about Danny Garcia. So they have something there with him. And, they just need to let him do his thing. Let him be a consistent character now. Let him build and continue to grow with the audience. That's key. Outside of that, you had the tag team match. That was what it was. I did think Chris Statlander versus Willow Nightingale. And I want to think that I was a little bit ahead of the curve on this particular match. This match has been building for a few months, right? Back into the spring is when this whole feud started. And I think it was the right call to pay it off in a street fight. And the women, both Willow and Chris Statlander, went all out. No pun intended. They did some crazy spots. They did some crazy weapons stuff. And they had to occupy the spot after Ospreay and Pac. And I think they did very successfully. So good to see that match pay off after all that it's been built with it throughout the last handful of months. Okay, and then we had kind of the craziness on the show. We'll start with Bryan Danielson against Jack Perry. That match went exactly as you would have expected it to go. There was some Young Bucks involvement, but in the end, Bryan Danielson overcame, won the match. After the match, Christian Cage walked out and as if he was going to tease a cash-in almost. And let me put this pause real quick. If AEW is going to have this cash-in title opportunity out there, you got to define it better. To me, they've only defined Christian Cage as having a world title opportunity, like a title match, not something that can be cashed in at any moment that he wants it at any time. And so you have to be better at defining the big stakes that your company has, and they didn't here. So when he walked out with that, you're just kind of saying to yourself, all right, what's the catch here? What's the play? Because we pretty much know nothing's going to happen with Christian's title opportunity because nothing's been defined. That opportunity hasn't been defined as such. So that was weird. But then you had Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli and Pac and Wheeler Yuta come out to stop Cage from doing the cash-in. After they do, they pose in the ring, and then BCC turns on Danielson, or most of them anyway. Claudio gives Danielson a stiff uppercut. They beat him up for a while, and then Pac holds Wheeler Yuta back as he watches Jon Moxley suffocate Bryan Danielson with a plastic bag. Now, I've got mixed feelings on this. And my mixed feelings on this differ from the feelings that I have about the main event. because I do think that there's a key here that I haven't seen discussed enough out there during the Discord about like the violence of All Out. And violence in pro wrestling typically is not like over the top violence is typically not something that I seek out. I'm not a big deathmatch person. I'm not a big barbed wire match person. Like just not my style of professional wrestling. Why? Because most of the time when you see those matches, they don't have context around it that makes that kind of violence make sense. More often than not, it's just we want to have a death match, so let's have a death match, and we're going to do all these things to each other, and the crowd's going to cheer, whatever, and be shocked and what have you. And I just like that's not storytelling. That's not anything that I particularly enjoy about professional wrestling. Nor is it the kind of professional wrestling that draws money. Typically, you have to have context around what you're doing. And with this Moxley angle, I just don't think it did. Like the context was not there for Moxley to attack Bryan Danielson in that way, where you almost murder him on live television. I know that they've got stuff going on with Jon Moxley. I know that Jon Moxley is in the middle of or the early stages of a key run and a key angle. And that's good. I think you wanted to make his attack on Danielson impactful, right? And you want to position him as a bad heel. I get all that. But the context around trying to kill this guy is too much. It's too much too soon without the proper foundation laid. You could have accomplished the same exact thing with just a vicious attack. Seriously, like a couple chair shots, get the screwdriver out if you want. Maybe Bryan Danielson can bleed. It's possible to get the land in the same exact spot without the ridiculousness of, okay, we're going to try to kill this guy on TV. You got to have the context behind it. This didn't have that. So I didn't like the angle for that reason. But where they ended up, I think is intriguing. Hearing Jon Moxley yell at Bryan Danielson, this isn't your company anymore. That's still out there. What is he talking about? What does he mean by that? That's still there. Clearly we're building to a Jon Moxley versus Bryan Danielson title program. That is very intriguing. So where they landed, I'm good with. I think it's a good place for Bryan Danielson to go for his title run, and it's a good way to elevate Jon Moxley back into something relevant. It just was way too much for where things are at. Now, moving on to the main event, I have a different opinion on the violence there because the context for that violence was there for everybody. If you're going to do an unsanctioned cage match, lights out, you have to have some level of violence that makes that stipulation matter and mean something. Not just for the match itself, but for future matches that you want to do that have that stipulation on it. You gotta deliver. You have to deliver. And, I just think you needed to have like a crazy violent match. Like if you put that out there, you got to have it. Plus, they have laid a solid foundation for why these two guys would want to almost kill each other in the ring. Like their feud, I think, is boiled successfully to that level where there is a level of hatred here that is deep. It's, impossible to ignore. And so the only way to get through it is to go through a match like this and get to an endpoint. And so I think you needed that violence. You needed, crazy stuff on the cinder block. I think that's better. To me, that's better than, skewers in the head, right? Like I think that spot's been done, over and over and over again. So that's, I think the cinder block played some nice drama there. And yeah, it hurts, but to me, it wasn't like over the top. And the syringe, as much as like it was cringeworthy, like it was a special kind of violence, right? Like that they saved for this match and this feud. So I was okay with that too. I was okay with that too. As gross as it was, this match, I think the story called for something like that. And then the chair shot, chair shots to the head are not good. Clearly, the chair was gimmicked, and thank goodness it was. Like, there's no reason to be bashing people's heads in with real steel chairs anymore. But clearly, this was this was a gimmick chair, and I thought it made for a dramatic end. So I had no problem with the main event for that reason, because it was exactly what the feud called for, what the story called for. They built it up, context was there, and that matters. That matters to me when grading out is something too violent. Amy says here in the chat, Hangman did burn down Swerve's house. Yes, and she also says, which I thought was a nice touch. It definitely added to the hatred between these two guys. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it did add to it. That added to it, and it'd been weird if they had this unsanctioned match and like didn't do anything of that lived up to the hype of that stipulation. So they had to do something. And I think it wasn't just to do it. Like, they've taken time to tell this story between Swerve and Hangman, and this is how you had to pay that off. That's how this situation and this violence differs from the stuff with Jon Moxley and the bag and Bryan Danielson. Hey, Joe, thanks so much for being here, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Hopefully you can continue watching live. Good to have you. Albsy, I'm going to say Albsy says, but how do you introduce the house and burn it all in one episode? Well, to me, honestly, when I talked about this on Friday, I thought they did a nice job with that. Frankly, Albsy, they got me. They got me early when they did it on social media first. It made it seem like it was like an actual thing, and not some just gimmick. And so, hey, maybe I was just fooled and naive, but I looked at that differently because of the way they introduced it on social media. So it gets a thumbs up. Got a thumbs up for me. So that's All Out. Good show. Good show. Again, it's inconsequential. I think people obviously will be talking about the Danielson thing on Wednesday. We'll be talking about Swerve and Hangman. Like, where does Swerve go from here? Where does Hangman go from here? As I watched Hangman win that match and like really solidify himself as a heel, I kind of thought, like, there was a part of me that thought, hey, maybe Hangman should be the one to like retire Bryan Danielson, and win the world title from him and retire, the American Dragon. I think Page as a heel, if you can get him hot enough, would really cook after a win like that. So something to think about. But yeah, a good show and a good night at the office for AEW. I think collectively, Mercedes Moné and Hikaru Shida had its issues. I don't know what's going on with Mercedes. I mean, her performances are just a bit choppy, and a bit just, I don't know, inconsistent. And I think when it's Britt Baker in there, I think you can kind of look at her opponent and go, okay, she didn't hang. But when it's Shida, it's like, no, we've seen her hang with pretty much everybody. And so you gotta look at Mercedes when it comes to that. Amy's asking here in the chat, how did the audience react to the suffocation of Bryan Danielson, and the needle in the Hangman Swerve match? Well, the needle in the Hangman Swerve match was just like audible gasps when he brought that thing out, like audible gasps, like, oh man, like holy cow. The suffocation, yeah, again, like it didn't really like land all that much. I don't think people really knew how to feel about it. I think number one, it just, that kind of thing just is hard to pull off, because everybody knows Jon Moxley's not going to kill and suffocate Bryan Danielson in the middle of that ring. You just know it. So it's hard. I think it was hard for the audience to like fully buy in to like the danger there, because that like, all right, whatever they're doing, like Moxley doesn't have the bag closed on Danielson. Like, it's not easy to buy. Whereas the needle, you're seeing that thing go right through Swerve's cheek, straight up. And that was the difference, I think. So I think the suffocation, it was more like, whoa, like they're doing this crazy angle spot, and that's intense. But we know Brian's going to be okay. The Swerve thing was like, wow, this is gross. This is gross, and that's intense. And and I think that's hopefully that like kind of articulates how it was, because that's really how it was in there. Wild. I got some pictures up on the One True Sport YouTube or Twitter account, so you can see some pictures live from in the building, some videos too. I also have some stuff up at Brass Ring Media. You can follow us there at brassring_media. There's also some YouTube videos that I took from my seats, and you can check those out on the Brass Ring Media YouTube channel. Just search Brass Ring Media YouTube, and that will come up. Subscribe there. We're live on that channel every single day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning with the Kick Ash podcast. So definitely check that out. And hopefully you can check those videos out and subscribe and check out some of our live stuff as the week goes on. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it. All right. With all of that, boy, we got Monday Night Raw tonight. The first Monday Night Raw that's going up against Monday Night Football this year. And by they, I mean WWE, have kind of loaded up this show, in a way that I'm surprised by, and not because like they can water down every single show, but or every single show going up against Monday Night Raw, but just because this is the first one. Like this is the Jets and the Niners are playing. Aaron Rodgers is returning. Like it's a big game, and it's the first Monday Night Football game of the year. Like it's just a weird show for them to try to be competitive against, but they're confident. They're confident that they've got the audience. So I'm real interested to see how this show does, given all that they have. So this is the lineup. WWE Hall of Famer Bret Hart is going to appear. The show is in Calgary. So that's pretty interesting. That's going to draw some eyeballs. Real interested to see what they do with him. I predicted last week on the show that you're going to get some kind of Bret Hart Gunther segment. We'll see what happens. But Bret Hart's going to be on the show. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are defending the WWE Women's Tag Team titles against the Unholy Union, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. We have an Intercontinental Championship #1 contendership match, a fatal four-way. Jey Uso versus Braun Strowman versus Ilya Dragunov versus Pete Dunne. So they've had qualifier matches to get into this final #1 contender match, and that's where everything landed. My guess is we see Jey Uso win this match. I think you started to see last week interaction with Jey and Braun Breaker. So I don't think that was an accident. I think that's where they're going to go with this, and that's the match that we get coming up at Bad Blood. We have Dominic Mysterio versus Dragon Lee in a singles match, a 6-woman tag team match, Zelina Vega, Lyra Valkyria, and a mystery partner. I wonder who could that be in Calgary. Natalia. What was that? I got something in my throat. And they're taking on Pure Fusion Collective, Shayna Baszler, Sonya Deville, and Zoe Stark. And then the other big match on the show is a street fight, American Made versus the Wyatt Six. So that is like the big match hook. So a lot there. I think the Wyatt Six win this match, definitely. But I think it could be a fun match too. So, but that's Raw. That's Monday Night Raw. Vinnie Mac in the chat here says, "Will Roman return today?" I don't think so. I think you may see him on SmackDown. That'd be my prediction. You got SmackDown's big move to the USA Network on Friday. It's Cody versus Solo Sikoa. And that's where I think you might see Roman make his return from that vicious attack at the hands of the Bloodline from a couple weeks ago. So that's that. We'll review Monday Night Raw tomorrow, all the happenings on the show. We'll talk all the results and just storyline analysis and everything that goes along with that. So that is on the horizon for tomorrow's show. With that, guys, I'll leave you. Thanks so much for joining me. Thanks to everybody in the chat. What a fun morning Albzy and Amy and Joe and Sean and Vinnie Mac and others. Patrick, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you guys being here. Tell a friend about the show. We want to keep this thing rolling and keep it growing. If you want more of me, you can check me out at Brass Ring Media. That is my shop. We are kind of known for having your long form analysis of current event pro wrestling locked down in written form and in podcast form. So we have a Substack page where we have all of our written content. I will have my match ratings for All Out going up soon, either later this morning or early this afternoon. So you can check that out. Become a subscriber. It's totally free to subscribe to us on Substack. Just search Brass Ring Media Substack. As I mentioned, subscribe to us on YouTube for live shows from myself and others on my team every single day of the week, and other cool stuff on our YouTube channel as well. So it's Brass Ring Media YouTube. We do have a Patreon right now where we are offering special content for Brass Ring Media members. It's only $4 a month to join, and you get everything, including our All Out review, a member-only podcast once a week, specialty shows once a week, access to our Discord community where all the members hang out and talk wrestling, talk life, and so much more. So it's $4, and right now we're offering you your free week, or excuse me, let me start over. We are offering you your first week free. There we go. Easy for me to say. If you sign up now, you can get your first week for free, test out all of our content, make sure it's something that you like, and we can make sure to give you the value that you're looking for back on your $4. So $4 gets you access to everything, but your first week is on us and totally free. Once again, it's patreon.com/Brass Ring Media on that. Cool. All right, guys, have a great Monday and a great start to your week. I'll catch you guys tomorrow right here, 11 Eastern a.m. It's 1TS Daily right here at One True Sport. I'm Zack Heydorn. Talk to y'all real soon. See ya.